Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Trewartha, and I'm delighted to be your host for tonight's City of Mississauga budget information session. The city is inviting residents to participate in the 2024 budget discussion by phone or online. Joining me this evening is Mayor Bonnie Crombie, along with members of City Council and the city's staff leadership team. Before we hear from our speakers, let me start by explaining how tonight's budget information session will work. Right now, residents from all over Mississauga are answering their phones and connecting into the discussion. We will hear from Mayor Bonnie Crombie shortly and our city manager and CAO, Sherry Lichterman. After that, it will be your turn. You will have a chance to ask your questions of the mayor and city staff and raise issues that you think are critical to Mississauga's 2024 budget. You can get in line to ask a question at any time by pressing *3 on your keypad. You'll then be put into an operator who will take down your question and put you into a queue. For those of you joining us online tonight, please type your question into the question field. If you have a question or comment about the city's 2024 budget, but don't get a chance to ask it during tonight's session, you can send it to the following email address: budget@mississauga.ca. That's budget@mississauga.ca. Throughout this session, we will also be asking you questions in the form of quick polls. I will read out a question and some multiple choice responses, and you will be able to use your keypad to respond. Here are a few things to keep in mind when you ask a question. When using your phone to ask a question, press *3 on your keypad and you'll be routed to an operator who will ask you to provide your name and the nature of your question. Please try to keep your question as brief as possible. There are a lot of people online tonight, and we want to get to as many of your questions as we can. Remember to make sure that your question is about the 2024 budget and priorities for the next year. If you're joining us online, please type your question into the question field and we'll put it into the queue to be answered live later. Again, my name is Rob Trewartha, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this 2024 budget information session with Mayor Crombie and senior staff from the City of Mississauga, as well as members of City Council. It's my job to keep this conversation moving smoothly and to make sure we get to hear your opinions and have as much discussion as possible. Before we start getting into your questions, I would like to invite Mayor Crombie to say a few words. Mayor Crombie, what would you like Mississauga residents to know about the work that's going on to prepare the city's 2024 budget?
Thank you, Rob, and I'm thrilled that everyone is here tonight and able to join us. Welcome and thank you to all of you, for those of you who are joined us live by phone or by live stream. Firstly, I want to thank my council colleagues who are with us here tonight in the room, and some of them are in the room and some of them are joining us virtually. Perhaps they can wave when I announce their names. From Ward 1, Councillor Stephen Dasco. From Ward 2, Councillor Alvin Tedjo. From Ward 3, Councillor Chris Fonseca. From Ward 4, Councillor John Kovac. From Ward 5, Councillor Carolyn Parrish. From Ward 6, Councillor Joe Hornick. From Ward 7, Councillor Deepika Demerla. From Ward 8, Councillor Matt Mahoney. From Ward 9, Councillor Martin Reed. And from Ward 11, Councillor Brad Butt. It is great to be back in the mayor's chair to lead and review and ultimately approve the 2024 budget. We have not done so yet because we're waiting for your input tonight. I'd like to take a moment to sincerely thank Councillor Chris Fonseca for stepping into the acting mayor role while I was on a leave of absence. Thank you, Chris. You did an outstanding job. I'd also like to acknowledge a few others who are on the call with us today. We have our senior leadership team here with us to answer your budget-related questions. Our city manager and chief administrative officer, Sherry Lichterman, our commissioner of planning and building, Andrew Whittemore, our commissioner of community services, Jody Robelos, our commissioner of transportation and works, Jeff Wright, our commissioner of corporate services, Raj Seth. I've been working closely with staff and council this week at Budget Committee to develop a budget that is well balanced, keeps taxes competitive, preserves our city services, and minimizes the burden on taxpayers. Investment in our city's future are essential to maintaining the high quality of life our residents have come to enjoy and to expect. As residents, you have a say in how we develop the budget, either through your ward councillor or by getting directly involved in the process. And that's why we're encouraging you to stay connected and engaged in the process. It's wonderful to see how many of you are joining us here tonight to learn more and to ask questions. Mississauga is constantly changing. Through it all, we've remained resilient and committed to making our city a great place to live, to work, and to play, and to invest. As we prepare to celebrate our 50th year milestone, that's right, Mississauga will turn 50 years old next year. We are ready to chart out our own path as an independent city, which means that this is our last budget before the Region of Peel dissolves and we become a single tier city next year. So now is not the time to be taking on any big new initiatives when much will change for us next year, including taking on new departments and services, which is why we've tabled a no-frills working person's budget. Because we're still part of a two-tier government, and right now, Mississauga has to split its property taxes. Of every dollar collected from property tax, approximately 36 cents stays with the city, while almost half, 45%, goes to the Region of Peel. That's right. Transferring regional services to the city will eliminate the duplication of services and create efficiencies by providing the necessary support to frontline service areas. Our focus remains on providing quality services with no disruption for our residents and for businesses, and on welcoming the highly qualified Peel Region staff and their expertise to our Mississauga team to deliver the programs and services in these areas. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we will continue to share updates and information as the Transition Board makes its recommendations. You can stay up to date on the progress by visiting the city website at mississauga.ca/Our City, Our Future. Just like you, the city is feeling the pinch from high inflation, which is contributing to the rising cost of living and doing business, while also creating an uncertain economic future. The last thing you want to do is open a notice from the city with a large property tax hike. When it comes to municipal government, you expect your elected officials to sharpen their pencils to keep your property taxes competitive, and through this budget, I believe we have done just that. Despite the pressures we face, the 2024 budget proposes a modest 2.3% increase on the tax bill compared to the 3% you saw last year. We achieved this by achieving a $3.7 million in savings and efficiencies while being extremely measured when considering anything new. Tonight, you will learn about the 2024 to 2027 business plan and the 2024 budget priorities and how we will continue to deliver for you, our residents who have trusted us to be prudent with your tax dollars. Our priorities remain the same: delivering the right services, demonstrating value for tax dollars, maintaining our infrastructure in a state of good repair, and maintaining current service levels. Nearly half, 2.9% of the 6.3% of the proposed budget increase is to maintain the status quo for the 200 services we deliver. I'll say that again, nearly half of the budget is just to maintain the 200 services we deliver today, to keep the lights on, the buses running, and the snow plows clearing snow. The largest investment that you will see is in transit, as we look to return to growing our service levels now that the service has not only rebounded, but grown since the pandemic. We're also exploring new opportunities to move Mississauga forward in areas such as housing, transportation, and climate change, including investing in hybrid electric buses for our fleet. We're promoting healthier lifestyles by encouraging residents to be more active. We will continue to improve transportation infrastructure and services in 2024 with investments such as adding bike lanes and sidewalks, increasing service hours for MyWay, and working alongside Metrolinx to construct the new 18-kilometer Hazel-McCallion LRT. At the same time, Council has a close eye on the budget process that's unfolding simultaneously at the region of Peel. And we will be working to chip away at the more significant 4.9% tax increase proposed there that will drive the total blended tax rate impacting taxpayers. And with that, I look forward to hearing from your budget questions tonight. And now I'll hand it back to our moderator, Rob. Thank you, and over to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Mayor Crombie. For those of you just joining us, my name is Rob Trewartha. I'm your moderator for this evening's 2024 budget information session, and I'm pleased to be here with Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie and the city's leadership team, as well as City Council, to talk about the 2024 budget. Just a reminder, you can press *3 on your phone at any time to get in line to ask a question. You can also participate in this discussion online by visiting the city's website at www.mississauga.ca/budget. There, you can listen to the discussion live and can also ask questions by typing them into the question field. We are talking about your priorities tonight as the city prepares the budget for 2024. In a short while, we'll be taking live questions. But before we do that, I'd like to turn it over to our City Manager and Chief Administrative Officer, Sherry Lichterman, who is going to run through a quick overview of the 2024 proposed budget. Over to you, Sherry.
Thanks, Rob. For those that are joining us online, I'm going to share a presentation. And so I will just put that forward. So the City of Mississauga's proposed 2024 to 2027 business plan and 2024 budget outlines how and where the city plans to allocate resources to meet service expectations over the next 4 years, with a more detailed focus on the upcoming year, of course. When we prepare the budget, we focus on 4 corporate priorities: delivering the right services, maintaining city infrastructure, advancing on the city's strategic vision, and implementing cost containment strategies. As you can see, most of the city's money comes from property tax. For those of you that can see this chart, over 57% of the city's revenue comes from property tax from residents and commercial industrial properties. This is the main revenue tool for municipalities due to the Municipal Act. And this limitation presents a real challenge as our infrastructure ages and requires renewal, and as we look to advance on our strategic vision with key initiatives like the Climate Change Action Plan and Vision Zero. As you can see, we also leverage user fees for our services as well to help offset some of the pressure on our property tax revenues. Here you can see the allocation of property taxes that the city collects. The mayor referenced this in her opening remarks. We share our revenue with the region and the provincial government, and for every property tax dollar collected from residential tax base, only 37 cents comes to the city. 46 cents goes to the region of Peel, and roughly 17 cents goes to the government of Ontario to be directed to public school boards. We put our 37 cents to good use and delivering good value, and that is why we also look to user fees and other revenue sources to fund our city activities. As you can see from this chart, our property tax overall is reasonably competitive with other municipalities. Our proposed increase will keep us in a similar range for 2024. We continue to work to find a balance of affordability for our residents and proper funding for important city needs, primarily in infrastructure renewal. As we look at the 2024 budget and what that means to your tax bill, we, as the mayor has indicated, we've really tried to keep the tax rate increase very reasonable this year. We're proposing a $3.1 million increase to our budget to fund new initiatives, and that's primarily related to additional costs to address MyWay transit service needs and some of our other service areas that are growing. We're recommending the continuation of the 3% capital infrastructure and debt repayment levy and a 1% increase of the public safety fire program levy, which was approved in 2019 and provides additional funding for fire stations and the related staffing and equipment costs, as well as funding the much needed renovations to many of our stations. This brings the total proposed budget increase to 6.3%, which translates to a 2.3% on the residential tax bill for the city's portion of the tax bill, and 1.6% on the commercial industrial tax bill, again, for the city's portion. On top of that, we would add the regional tax increase. On average, for the city's portion, this would translate to a tax bill increase of about $151 per household on a residential home with a $730,000 assessment value. Each year, the city carefully and systematically invests in new initiatives to advance on our strategic objectives. There are 21 new initiatives proposed for 2024, and 13 are either user fees or revenues generated to offset any costs to offer the program, or they're funded from capital and have no impact on the tax rate. As you can see, some of the highlights of these new initiatives are the My Way service increase that I referenced, parkland growth, and some of our capital projects, including the new fire station 125. As we look at our additional capital investments, we spend a great deal of our investment on state of good repair and maintaining our infrastructure. We have just over 10 million budgeted for fire station renovations. We have our new fire station that I referenced, park development of over 41 million, our major road construction of over 22 million, road rehabilitation, storm sewers, and much more. So that's just a short highlight of the budget that's been proposed this week. And for more information, you can visit mississauga.ca/budget. And that has all of the detailed documents that outline in more detail the budget as I presented to you today. So back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Sherry. As I mentioned, in addition to asking or answering live questions, we also have the ability to do quick polls. So let's do one now. I'm going to ask a question and then read out a few possible answers. You choose the one that best reflects your opinion by pressing the number on your phone keypad that corresponds with your answer. Please listen to all the answers before you make your selection. For those online, just select the option on the screen that best reflects your opinion. Here's the first question. Of the following, which city service is most important to you and your family? Press 1 for libraries, press 2 for transit, press 3 for roads, cycling paths, and infrastructure, press 4 for recreation programs, and press 5 for climate change efforts. Again, that question is, of the following, which city service is most important to you and your family? Press 1 for libraries, press 2 for transit, press 3 for roads, cycling paths, and infrastructure, press 4 for recreation programs, press 5 for climate change efforts. We'll have another poll for you later, so look for that coming up. Now, let's get to our first question of the night. We have a question online from Olivia, and Olivia asks, why are my property taxes increasing in 2024? Madam Mayor?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Olivia, for that. I'm going to introduce the response and pass it over to our city manager to elaborate further. So cost to deliver city services increase annually, just as your home costs do. Every household cost experience increases. We see that inflation is continuing to be high, and we continue to deliver city services at levels that are expected by our taxpayers, by our residents, and fees and service charges must also increase as a result. Now, municipalities are very limited into how we can bring in how we can bring in revenue. Property taxes represent 57% of our revenue, and they are the main source. And higher than normal inflation continues, and the cities I don't know if you realize, but municipal governments can't run deficits. So we are still experiencing a small deficit as a result of COVID and as a result of the numbers, our transportation numbers had been down during COVID. They have rebounded significantly since, but we'll have to cover some of that deficit shortage through our reserves. So we have to fund those shortfalls, and we can do that by three ways: through increased taxes, reduced services, or by reserves. So this year we've chosen reserves. So costs have increased to everyone, and they have increased to the city as well. So hence why you're seeing a property tax increase. It is very modest. The increase is proposed to be 2.3% this year. Sherry, do you want to elaborate further?
Thanks, Mayor Crombie. I think you covered it, but I would just add that really the main drivers of our tax increase this year are really to maintain our service levels and seeing the same kinds of inflationary costs that residents and businesses are seeing themselves. So some of that is our increase to labor costs, increase to costs for our vendors, for equipment, for fuel, and really that is the biggest portion of the increase in the budget this year, in addition to some of the new initiatives that I spoke about. But on top of that, we absolutely look every year to identify savings and efficiencies. And this year, we've had an opportunity to identify 3.7 million in reductions to offset some of those new expenses that we've had to incur. And we've identified savings in the last several years of over 70 million. So we continue to try to operate lean and efficiently while we continue to see some of these inflationary pressures year to year. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Sherry, and thank you for that question, Olivia. Our next question comes from online, from Mac, who asks, what is the city doing about increasing homelessness camps in the city of Mississauga? Mayor Crombie?
Oh, goodness, Rob. Thank you, Mac, for that question. I'm going to respond, and I'm going to ask Councillor Chris Fonseca, who's been a lead on this, shortly, as well as our Commissioner of Community Services, Jody, to answer as well. But just so you realize, we have had an influx of asylum seekers in our shelters. They have been primarily from East Africa, and they have been coming first to Toronto, and then certainly next is Peel and into our Mississauga shelters. Regional staff have been terrific, and they have tried to accommodate everyone. We have a policy of not turning anyone away. The federal government has Councillor Fonseca has done an outstanding job pushing them for additional funding, and they have announced 19 million in funding for shelters. Our shelters, so you know, are 320% capacity. If you can imagine, leaving little room for typically the individuals who would use our shelters, homeless and sometimes victims of domestic violence as well. So we've recently received 7 million to help us open 2 new shelters in Mississauga and a welcome center near Pearson Airport. So now I'll pass it over to Jody to talk about the city supports, and maybe Chris can speak to asylum speakers and supports broadly for a homeless population. So Jody, over to you, and then to Councillor Fonseca, please.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. And I'll just say, I mean, we are seeing more encampments in our community. And the challenge we're having is, you know, we want to work with the region of Peel. We've had a great track record of working with their outreach services to connect people experiencing homelessness into the regional services. The challenge is when our shelter system is at over 300% capacity, as Mayor Crombie mentioned, it's difficult because we don't have somewhere for them to go. And so we're grateful and thankful that there's been some federal funding provided to the region, and we're hoping to get a stabilization in terms of the shelter space and then really work with the region on additional supports. We have you know, at the city, we have the Open Window Hub as well, which operates out of a number of our community facilities, libraries primarily, that provide additional support to those experiencing homelessness. And we've definitely seen an increase in level of support that our staff are providing. But, you know, really looking forward to a longer term solution and working with regional staff. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councillor Fonseca. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Mayor Crombie and Commissioner Robolos for outlining what has been done to date. Just to, again, as Mayor Crombie mentioned, I just want to thank the frontline workers really at not only the Dundas shelter, but in health and human services at the region. And also a thank you to all of the City of Mississauga staff. As Jody mentioned, the coordination and the collaboration between the region and the City of Mississauga to ensure that we are able to continue to be committed to our mandate, which is a no turn away policy in the region of Peel and the City of Mississauga is essential. And also, I would like to express my condolences to the asylum claimant that passed away very unfortunately, and a couple of weeks ago now. And to that extent, the federal government did come forward to the table with, as Mayor Crombie mentioned, $7 million, which is an ask that all of the mayors put forward to the federal government earlier this summer. And then again, I moved a motion in October requesting for emergency funding, the $7 million, but also, as the mayor and Jody referenced, a more sustainable program moving to the future, which has come in the form of not only 2 new shelters that will be opening up, but a regional welcoming center that we know is going to help address the overflow capacity. As Jody and the mayor mentioned, we are currently at 320% capacity, but this announcement and this collaboration working with other orders of government is a first step in the right direction of trying to address this issue. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back over to you, Mayor Crombie.
Yeah, thank you. You both done an outstanding job. May I just say that the reason our shelters are seeing such incredible numbers are the asylum seekers, but right across the province, we are seeing increases as well in encampments, largely due to increases in homeless populations. So just know that the mayors right across the province are coming together to look for strategies to address these issues, whether they are encampments or building more housing that are deeply affordable. Cities like Kitchener are looking at tiny houses and containers, etc. So there are some great strategies being employed. So we're all working on it together. Thank you for that question. And moving back to Rob for our next question.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. For those of you who are joining us, my name is Rob Trewartha, and I'm your moderator for tonight's budget engagement session. We're talking about the 2024 budget for the City of Mississauga and your priorities. Just a reminder, you can press *3 on your phone at any time to get in line to ask a question. You can also participate in this discussion online by visiting the city's website at mississauga.ca/budget. There you can listen to the discussion live, and you can also ask questions by typing them in to the question field. Let's get to another question. This question comes online from Carlos. Carlos asks, what is the city doing to address the issue with illegal fireworks in our city? Madam Mayor?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to pass it over to Raj Seth, who is our Commissioner of Corporate Services, because we've recently looked at our fireworks bylaws and made some changes. But do know that people can legally set fireworks with a permit Victoria Day, Canada Day, the Lunar New Year, and Diwali. But Raj, there have been some changes to our bylaws. So could you illuminate those for us, please?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I would just start off by saying that we are going to increase fines, number one. The current maximum fine allowed, $5,000, and we are going to drastically increase it, $100,000 number. The actual new bylaw comes into effect December the 1st. So increasing fines is going to be part of the program. Also, enforcement staff, we're going to have much more enforcement staff out there on those 5 days. And we are going to be working with the actual police as well to kind of ensure that presence is going to be out there in full type of force to kind of ensure that fireworks put off illegally on roads and parks, etc., are going to be managed much, much better. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Raj. Our next question comes to us live from Sita. Sita, you're online.
Hi, Rob. Good evening, everyone. What support is there to help seniors on fixed income to deal with property tax and cost of living? Thank you.
Thank you, Sita. So we are always looking through our lens of are we providing care for seniors who have spent their entire lives here and contributed to the very fabric of our city and have paid taxes. And our adult population is aging, and that population is growing as well. So all of our departments have come together to ensure that we're providing adequate programs for senior services for seniors, and especially those seniors who need some affordable need measures to provide more affordability. So I will say that I'm going to ask Sherry Lichterman, our city manager, to comment on it, but there are a number of things we have done, and I hope you have seen some of the changes, including the $1 cash fare for seniors on our My Way buses. And of course, we do offer some rebates and subsidies for older adults in low income, including we offer rebates on annual property taxes if you qualify, stormwater charge subsidy, again, if you qualify, outdoor maintenance subsidy programs, driveway windrow snow clearing programs. And in terms of recreation and culture, there are programs called Active Assist at our community centers. You could be eligible to receive a credit of $275 per year. So there are many considerations given to seniors, rebates, etc., and subsidies. And just know that we always care and respect our seniors, and we want to ensure that you have everything you need to age at home here in Mississauga. So Sherry, over to you.
Thanks, Mayor Crombie. I think you hit the highlights on a lot of our really good programs, and there are some offered by the Region of Peel as well. And so, Sita, if you want more information on all of these programs, if you visit our website at mississauga.ca/older adults, that really has the listing of all the programs the mayor mentioned and more. And as she suggested, it's certainly a key area of focus for both the city and the region to ensure we're supporting our older adults. Back to you, Rob.
And Sherry, let me just add that we do have an accessibility advisory committee as well to ensure that our city remains an accessible place for everyone, including our older adults and especially those with disabilities. So seniors built this city, we built our country, and we want to be sure that they're well looked after. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Mayor Crombie. Now let's go to another quick poll question. How would you prefer the city fund its services? Press 1 if you think the city should increase service levels and increase taxes above the rate of inflation. Press 2 if you think the city should maintain service levels and increase taxes at around the rate of inflation. Press 3 if you think the city should decrease service levels and reduce taxes. That question again. How would you prefer the city fund its services? Press 1 if you think the city should increase service levels and increase taxes above the rate of inflation. Press 2 if you think the city should maintain service levels and increase taxes around the rate of inflation. And press 3 if you think the city should decrease service levels and reduce taxes. Thank you for participating in that poll, and I'm sure we'll do another one before the end of today's session. So now let's go to another question. This question comes to us from AQ Mufti online. AQ asks, you highlighted that 46% of our taxes are allocated to the region. In the upcoming year, when we transition to an independent city, could we see a reduction in our taxes? Mayor Crombie?
That's a great question. And Assalamu alaikum to you, Mufti. Mufti is a great friend of this city and sits on many of our committees. And we are so excited that we will finally be able to control our destiny and that our tax dollars will become invested in Mississauga, not sent to Brampton or to Caledon, or not sent to support another layer of government at the region of Peel. And in all the analysis that we have done over a decade, we save over $1 billion. So for Mississauga, this is such great news. I'm going to pass it to our city manager, Sherry Lichterman. Sherry, if you could talk to us a little more about what savings we could anticipate, because I know initially there may be some transition issues as we absorb new departments from the region, for instance, housing and some of the social programs, etc., waste management, but perhaps you can talk to us about where you think there might be some savings for our taxpayers.
Thanks, Mayor Crombie. Yes, we're working away with the transition board on the dissolution of Peel and what the city is going to look like and what services we're going to deliver post-dissolution. So as the mayor said, really the city will control a lot of the services that the region of Peel currently delivers. And we really anticipate that we will generate savings over time by reducing the two levels of bureaucracy that are administering these services. So we're bringing reports to council, and we have a website and information that we're putting out regularly on dissolution. More information to come as we continue our work with the transition board, but we really do anticipate that this is going to benefit taxpayers over the long run, and certainly it will streamline customer service and be more advantageous for residents and businesses that are trying to contact the city, deal with our services, and really it'll allow the city to focus, as the mayor said, on our own priorities. So more to come on dissolution, but certainly we see it as a positive, both financially and from a resident and business standpoint. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Just a reminder, if you're joining us, you can press *3 on your phone at any time to get in line to ask a question live. You can also participate in this discussion online by visiting the city's website at mississauga.ca/budget. You can listen to the discussion live on this website, and you can also ask questions by typing them into the question field. Let's go to our next question. Comes online from Karan. Is the city increasing automatic traffic infraction enforcement, speed cameras, red light cameras, higher fines for nuisance, to offset the requirements for the levy to balance the budget? Over to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask our Commissioner of Transportation, Jeff Wright, our Commissioner of Transportation and Works, in fact, and I know he's going to give you a very fulsome response on this. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Karan, in response to your question, the city has launched an automated speed enforcement program, and that program has 22 cameras that are rotating within each ward around the city. And the objective of that program is to reduce speeds in neighborhoods and reduce compliance around road safety, increase compliance around road safety. And the revenues that are generated from the ASE program go back into support road safety projects and initiatives within Mississauga. And so as we look to expand our road safety program, we are looking to increase automated speed enforcement and red light cameras. But again, the revenues from those go back into offsetting the costs and increase road safety measures. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Rob.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Our next question comes online from Miguel. Miguel asks, housing is a real challenge for a lot of people in our community. So what is the city doing to increase housing choices and options in our city? Mayor Crombie?
Well, we're doing a lot. Of course, we've been given targets to building 1.5 million homes right across the province. Here in Mississauga, we'll be building 120,000 homes, and we put density where it's appropriate in our downtown and along our transit corridors. But we've also asked our residents to accept gentle density in our neighborhoods. And to talk more about that, I'm going to ask our Commissioner of Planning and Building, Andrew Whittemore, to talk about some of the options that we are providing in Mississauga, because of course we're not building single family homes anymore, detached single family homes. We're building townhomes and stacked townhomes and multi-residential towers as well. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And so, yeah, we have a lot of housing under construction currently. We have about 11,000 units under construction. And this year alone, Council has approved upwards of over 9,000 new units. But in terms of more approachable, gentle infill, we have an action plan that outlines all of the city's goals and actions around what we will do for housing. But more recently, Council has been presented and approved a new zoning regime for up to 3 units across all Mississauga properties. And next week, we'll be contemplating, as of right, 4 units across Mississauga. So there is a lot happening, and all of this is on our webpage should anybody wish to understand or read more about what we're doing. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Our next question comes live from Barbara, who I believe has a question about the Central Library. Barbara, you're on. Barbara, are you there? I'm not hearing Barbara, so actually I will ask her question that she was going to ask live, and I believe it's around the date that the Central Library would be opening. And so maybe Madam Mayor will ask the question, how long has the Central Library been closed, and when will it reopen to the public?
Well, thank you. And Barbara, we are so excited because our Central Library has been named for my predecessor, the very iconic, beloved Mayor Hazel McCallion. It is now the Hazel McCallion Central Library. And I know you haven't been able to access it for some time because it's been under renovation and it needed a little bit of work, as a matter of fact. And it will be so incredible and it'll be a wonderful place for you to volunteer. So I'm going to ask our Commissioner of Community Services, Jody Robolos, to talk to us about how long the renovation has gone on and when we expect the new Hazel McCallion Central Library to reopen. Because I think Barbara would like to volunteer, Jody.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie, and we are just as excited as Barbara to see the Central Library reopen. I've had the opportunity to tour the space. We are getting ready to open. We are bringing back our library teams. So by mid-December, we should have a soft opening. And so what staff are doing is they're ramping up hours. So look for some more detailed information on the Central Library website. But boy, can I tell you, as someone who's used that library and seen that library for years, it's like walking into a completely different space, and really grateful for Barbara and people like hers patience, because it has been a long renovation, but it is a massive building. And so really excited to have Barbara back. We certainly have lots of opportunities for volunteering as it relates to both library and other services in the city. So if Barbara would like to reach out to me, I'm happy to connect her with some opportunities as we look to reopen Hazel McCallion Central Library. Thank you. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jody. Just a reminder, if you're just joining us, that you can press *3 on your phone at any time to get in line to ask a question live. You can also participate online by visiting the city's website at mississauga.ca/budget, where you can listen to the discussion live and ask questions by typing them into the question field. We've had some great questions so far, and our next question comes from Rajav, who asks online, what is the city doing to combat the increase in crime? With the city leaving the region of Peel, will there be enough allocated to meet the demand? Additionally, how are we dealing with the increased wait times for 911? Mayor Crombie?
Well, those are very good questions. And as a matter of fact, we are just had the police budget presented to us last week, and we will be in further discussion on it this week and voting on it next week. And they are proposing some very large increases because we are bringing on quite a number of new officers and increasing the budget significantly. So I think everyone will feel it will go a long way to enhancing community well-being and safety. But we are also very concerned about the wait times on 911. So there will be further civilian dispatchers added so that we can really deal with the delays, because we have all heard those anecdotal stories that, you know, we have people have been waiting 5 minutes for a response to call an ambulance, and that is completely unacceptable. So we will be adding a significant amount of money into the police budget so that we can reduce wait times and ensure there are more boots on the ground in the coming years in Mississauga. I don't know if any of my councillors want to add anything on how we combat crime, but just know that it is very important to us as it is to you, and we are making additions to the budget for Peel Regional Police as a result. Do you want to add? Councillor Joe Hornick would like to contribute.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think one of the things I've been trying to work on in my ward as a new councillor is also to build out the neighborhood watches and residents associations. One of the things, you know, connecting yourselves, connecting neighbors together is a really good tool if you have concerns in your specific neighborhood. I think Madam Mayor just described the largest police budget expansion we're ever going to have in the region. That comes on top of last year, which was already the largest expansion ever, and we're double that now this year. So we have significant new resources going to the police, but also there's things you can do in your own neighborhood. And so reach out to your local councillor, tell them you're interested in starting a neighborhood watch or a residents association, start connecting with your neighbors. And, you know, it's a great experience to connect with your neighbors and just on a social level, get to know them better and look out for each other. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Oh, over to you, Councillor Fonseca.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to add to Councillor Hornick's points, I would also like to thank all of the various not-for-profits that are also in Region of Peel, and then I know transitioning to the City of Mississauga. We have community safety and well-being tables where a lot of the different organizations collaborate with Peel Police through different divisions to address safety in our neighborhoods and in our city and in our region. A perfect example of this is an announcement that was made a couple of weeks ago with regards to Safe Center Peel, which is going to be located to address gender-based violence and domestic violence. And it's a collaboration between many, many different organizations that are coming together to address this in collaboration and support with the Region of Peel. We can't do it alone, and we need to all join together to address crime and crime prevention in our city. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fonseca. We'll go to our next question, which comes online from Nelson. Nelson asks, what is being done to fix potholes on our roads in and around the city? Mayor Crombie?
You know, that's a great question. And sometimes when I drive either from Brampton or from Toronto, I notice a difference in the roads right away. Ours are better maintained and there are fewer potholes. But I know that our Commissioner of Transportation and Works, he's on top of it because he has a schedule planned out for road repair and road maintenance for the next 10 years. So, Jeff Wright, why don't you talk to us about that plan to keep our roads in tip-top shape?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Nelson, in response to your questions on potholes, there's two areas that we utilize to undertake road repairs. One would be through our operating budget, and that is when you would see a works crew out on the street filling a pothole. And in the 2024 budget, we have about $9.5 million in our maintenance control budget. And that would be utilized to do things like pothole repairs and other operating repairs of the road network. If the road starts to deteriorate and has, significant amount of potholes, then we actually look to do a full resurfacing of that program. And that's when we switch over to our capital budget. And in our 2024 budget, we're actually proposing a significant investment in road rehabilitation and resurfacing, just over $40 million in 2024. So that's how we manage potholes and insofar as the longer road repair program. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We've had some really great questions to this point, and I think it's time to do one more poll question. So the question is, how do you prefer receiving budget information? Press 1 for the city's website, mississauga.ca. Press 2 for in-person public meetings. Press 3 for the city's e-newsletter. Press 4 for the 2024 budget information session, that's tonight's event. Or press 5 for social media. Once again, you can use your keypad to answer the following question. How do you prefer receiving budget information? Press 1 for the city's website, mississauga.ca. Press 2 for in-person public meetings. Press 3 for the city's e-newsletter. Press 4 for the 2024 budget information session, or press 5 for social media. Let's go to another question. This question comes online from Sarita. She asks, the snow walls left by the snow cleaners are impossible to clear, especially for seniors. Can the city provide any help in this area?
That is a great question, Sarita. I think it's maddening for everyone, not just seniors and not just people with disabilities, but we do have a program that can help. And let me also share with you that our council reviews the equipment that's available to clear those windrows each and every year. It is very, very expensive. I think the last time we looked at it, it cost about $10 million and only cleared the wider streets. So not the smaller streets where you probably live on a little cul-de-sac or crescent. So it wasn't servicing all our residents, just a fraction of them. So it didn't make any sense to put the money in for the windrow equipment, but we'll continue to review it. But for now, there is a driveway windrow snow clearing program that really can make it easier for our seniors or people who are living with a physical disability. And how that works is city crews will clear a space in the windrow that it's that wall of snow that is left behind by the snowplow at the end of your driveway. And so last year we expanded the windrow program that is available to our seniors or to people with a disability from 300 eligible residents over 65 to 750 residents. Based on a first come, first served basis. The program is closed for this year because we reached the 750 application limit. The program fee is $200 for the season, but it's free to people who qualify for financial assistance. So residents can apply online or by bringing their application form and their supporting documents to their local community center service desk, or you can visit mississauga.ca/windrow for complete application details. The application deadline is late November or early December each year, so please keep an eye on it. And next fall, please be sure to go into your community center and apply. Jeff Wright, I don't know if you want to add anything about making life easier for seniors to clear their driveways or their windrows?
Then I saw a few flurries today, Madam Mayor. I think you've provided a fulsome response, so perhaps I'll turn it back to Rob.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We now have our next question coming to us live from Godfrey. Godfrey has a question about how Mississauga tax dollars will be utilized when we become independent. Godfrey, over to you.
Yes, this was my question. How will our tax dollars be allocated? Will they be totally for Mississauga, or will they be distributed partly to the other cities, neighboring cities? That was my question. And the next question, which somebody asked also, will our tax dollars increase when Mississauga becomes independent?
Mm-hmm. So Godfrey, the good news is we are going to become a free and independent city and able to chart our own destiny and make our own decisions and not have to support another layer of government. We had been paying 70% of the costs for 40 years at the region of Peel. And it's just in the past 10 years that Brampton has grown and our share is down to 60% of all those costs. There was so much duplication and so much inefficiency over there, Godfrey. So just think about all those those tax dollars that we can reinvest in our own city rather than sending them up to the region of Peel or subsidizing the needs of Brampton or the needs of Caledon, because of course we were sending $84 million to Brampton each year for their roads, their planning, and their policing. That's money that we will save and we can put back into our budget. So this is very good news. When we did the analysis, after the first 10 years, the first decade, we saved $1 billion. Now, I think we all realize there will be some transition time because we'll, of course, have to build up the very departments that are providing you services at the region of Peel today. But that's just a very short transition time, and we can do it without all the inefficiencies of having two layers of government doing the same thing. So all in all, this is very good news for the city of Mississauga. We have a lot of smaller cities like London and Kingston and Windsor, Dryden, for goodness sakes, that are single tier. And here we have the third largest city and the financially subsidizing the fourth largest city. And so this was not right. We had been lobbying for it for many years. I know Mayor Hazel McCallion did for many years. She was opposed to it from the start. And so we have finally, that this government has finally agreed that it is not the right way, not the right path forward for the city of Mississauga. So we will be free and independent and able to control our own destiny and invest all our tax dollars into growing our city. And there are some discussions right now by the Transition Board on how your services that are currently being provided by the Region of Peel, how they will be delivered to you. So you can look in the very near future, you'll be hearing announcements on how services will be delivered. And by that, I mean your water and waste pickup, etc., and how that will be provided. It will be seamless to you. You know, previously water was provided by the Region of Peel, and perhaps it would be a service entity like Electra. Those decisions are not finalized, but you will learn more in the weeks and months to come because, of course, on January 1st, 2025, we will become a free and independent single-tier city, and that is such great news. Sherry, I don't know if you want to add anything. I just get so passionate about this issue, and I'm so excited about it, but if I've overlooked anything, then please jump in.
Thanks, Mayor Crombie. I think you've covered a lot of the work that's being done. More answers to come out in 2024. But to kind of get back to the question, certainly Mississauga tax dollars will go to support Mississauga services. And to the extent that we still have some joint services with Brampton and Caledon, the tax dollars would still, of course, be supporting services that take place here in Mississauga. So if you visit our website, mississauga.ca /our city, our future, sorry, then you can keep up to date on the latest as it relates to Peel dissolution. Thanks very much, and back to Rob.
Thanks very much, Sherry. My name is Rob Trewartha, and I'm your moderator for tonight's budget town hall for the 2024 City of Mississauga budget. If you'd like to ask a question, you can do so live by pressing *3 on your phone at any time to get in line. You can also participate in this discussion online by visiting the city's website at mississauga.ca /budget. You can also join the discussion live online and can ask your questions by typing them into the question field, and we will ask them live. Our next question comes from Milan. He asks online, how much is the Leaf vacuum program, and can we take that money and invest it into transit instead? Mayor Crombie?
It's a great question, and the same person who is going to answer it knows all about transit as well. I'm going to send it right over to Jeff Wright, our Commissioner of Transportation and Works, and he's going to talk about the leaf collection program, which is very vitally important to some of the southern neighborhoods, because of course they have those very tall leafy trees, and we need to pick up the leaves in the fall. But certainly we continue to make an investment into our transit network, and that's where all the new investments go for the city of Mississauga. All the new money is going into invest in our public transportation system. So Jeff Wright, over to you on leaf collection and pickup.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And so the leaf collection program is kind of wrapping up for the season. All the leaves have fallen from the trees, and staff have gone around and ensured that most of the leaves have been picked up. It is a service that mechanical leaf collection is provided, and the cost of the program, Millen, is about, let's say, around $2 million. And that accounts for contractor costs, our labor, equipment, and some communication costs that are in there. But there is an offsetting revenue that is associated with that. We are able to dispose of our leaves and collect some revenue around that. So we're looking at a net cost that can range, depending on how many leaves we collect and the revenue. So of around, say, $500,000 to $1 million would be sort of the net cost of the program. So when you look at the investments that we're making in transit, we are proposing a significant investment in 2024 for My Way services, and we are looking to add about 60,000 service hours into 2024 to help with things like service capacity and frequencies on our routes, to help with things like overcrowding on some of our areas. But it's an investment and begins our journey to really continue that investment and grow My Way services. So we are doing both right now in terms of the leaf collection program, but also investing in My Way. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We've had some wonderful questions so far this evening. We have 2 more online questions and then 2 questions being asked live. So I'll go to our next online question. It comes from Lynn. Lynn asks, traffic is a nightmare in Mississauga, especially in the downtown core. How much budget is being allocated to help alleviate congestion across the city? Mayor Crombie?
Well, I'll begin this question if I can, and also send it right back to Jeff Wright. But certainly breaking congestion and getting people moving across our city efficiently and safely is one of our top priorities. We want to get Mississauga moving, so we continue to invest in our transit system, and we're working with other levels of government to make investments as well. So we have secured over $3 billion for transit in Mississauga over the next 10 years from our federal and our provincial partners. And I would say that 87% of our roads are in very good or fair condition, but nonetheless, we're trying to break congestion and gridlock so that we can get people and businesses moving as well. You know that there is currently a lot of construction occurring along Huron, Ontario, because of course we are building our Hazel McCallion LRT. 18 kilometers, 19 stops, and it'll provide a great option for people to get out of their vehicles and use public transportation. We are also building bus rapid transit infrastructure on the Lakeshore and on the Dundas Street corridors, and we're also advocating for all-day two-way service on the Milton GO line, just like we have on the Lakeshore line today. We've also invested in ATMS, which is our advanced traffic management system, and that's to synchronize and connect more than 800 of our traffic signals to move traffic more quickly right across our city. So we're working closely with the province on fare integration, including on our GO Transit and on My Way, to make it easier for people traveling across Mississauga to connect with regional transit and the TTC. So that is some of the highlights, and I think maybe Jeff Wright would like to add a few more, but those are the highlights. We're doing everything we can to break congestion and gridlock and continue to invest in our public transit systems. Jeff, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Great response in terms of the work that we're trying to do to combat mobility in Mississauga, both from the perspective of vehicles and traffic management. And Lynn, your specific question is how much are we investing in traffic next year? So in 2024, our operating budget for traffic management is about $17.6 million. And in that operates our traffic signal system and our road safety program and a number of other initiatives to keep vehicles moving within Mississauga. And the mayor mentioned, complementing those investments in traffic management would be our transit portfolio. And so I just spoke previously about the proposed 2024 investment in My Way from a transit service perspective, but other major capital programs that we're doing, such as the LRT that the mayor mentioned, but also, our advocacy for the extension of that LRT in our downtown via the downtown loop. So we are doing an exercise right now, revisiting the alignment of the LRT in the downtown, and we're looking to wrap that up and hoping that we can bring that service into the downtown Mississauga in the not too distant future. So with that, I'll turn it back to Rob. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for that answer. Our next question comes online from Nelson. Nelson asks, crime seems to be on the rise in Mississauga, in particular car thefts. What's being done to deter this?
So I will say to you that Mississauga continues to be one of the safest cities in Canada, bar none. This is statistically very true, and I know we have very safe neighborhoods. But organized auto theft is a concern for everyone, and it is one where is one of the highest revenue generators for organized crimes, only behind drugs and fraud. And the proceeds continue to fuel organized gangs and organized crime. And it's the number one issue that we're hearing from our residents about. It's crippling big cities right across Ontario, including here in Mississauga and in Brampton as well. Statistics show that there's almost 120% increase in auto theft from 2018 to 2022. So a lot of that was COVID. We certainly saw a spike during COVID. And since 2022, auto thefts are up almost 50% in the region of Peel. What we know is that there are 459 vehicles stolen on average per month. 93 million and 2,400 vehicles were recovered. Oh, I guess that's the value. 93 million and 2,400 vehicles were recovered in Mississauga. We saw almost 3,000 vehicles stolen, which accounts for 54% of stolen vehicles in the region of Peel. So to date, there have been 6,800 auto thefts reported in Peel region, and this number exceeded last year's figure, which was about 5,500. The numbers is starting to stabilize, which is great news because PRP, our Peel Regional Police, have made this a priority, and they have successfully recovered $130 million worth of stolen vehicles. They have a recovery rate of over 40%. So that is excellent. They are doing great work. Nonetheless, there's still 60% of vehicles that are not recovered, and we know that they are transported to the Montreal border where they're put in containers and sent abroad. Some of them are broken up for parts, but nonetheless, Peel Police recently doubled the size of their auto theft unit from 2 to 6 members, and then we continue to see increased funding being put into the auto crime unit. Unfortunately, there has been a recent trend involving carjackings as well. 20 have been reported, including in the food service delivery of vehicles. I don't know if any of my counselors want to comment on this, but this is certainly an issue that we are hearing about from all of our residents. We discuss it with Peel Regional Police. Peel Regional Police are hosting an auto theft summit in March to combat auto theft, and they're bringing forward different police chiefs, border services, car manufacturers, insurers. It's not open to the public. It's open only to the experts to come together to find solutions on how we deal with the issue of auto theft and start to peel away at the numbers so that this is not as pertinent an issue as it is. I see a number of my counselors putting up their hands that would like to speak to this. Just please keep your responses brief. I'm going to recognize Councillor Deepica Demirla from Ward 7 and Councillor Martin Reid from Ward 9. Councillor Demirla, you're up first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make mention also of the $18 million that the province just announced in the auto theft grant, and I know Peel's getting a portion of that, and I think that's a really good step because this is a province-wide issue, and I don't think cities on their own can handle it. So it's really good to have the province step in and have a coordinated approach.
And Councillor Reid?
Hi, yes, and I was just going to mention also, if you want to get a snapshot of what your specific neighborhood is like, if you go on the peelpolice.ca website, click on the In the Community tab, and then you can see the crime occurrences or the crime statistics map. And then you could specifically look at what your ward looks like, what Meadowville looks like, what Cooksville or Clarkson looks like. and see specifically what happens, because there's a lot of sensationalism that happens in the media, and then when you look at your specific neighborhood, your street, you might see that it's actually a little safer than you thought. So that gives you a real snapshot of crimes that's occurred and if they've been solved and all those different things. So keeping things in perspective, we're doing a lot of work in the community to address it, but then also you get a snapshot of what's happening in your specific neighborhood.
Thanks so much to you both. And so what more can the industry do? So we need to continue to push the auto manufacturers to make it harder to steal cars. And we should be asking the federal government to require the manufacturers to include anti-theft technologies in the vehicles. For instance, Teslas don't get stolen because of the anti-theft software that are in those vehicles. And we can ensure that insurance companies are not charging premiums to customers simply because their cars are on the top vehicle stolen list. So among all the luxury vehicles are, but simple cars like Toyota Camrys are listed on that list as well. So that is there is a website where that information is available for you to go look at. But please protect yourself in any way you can. You know not to leave your key fobs or your keys near a window or the door. Please wrap them in tinfoil or put them in a tin can, but keep them away. And if you can cover the VIN number of your vehicle, even better. Just put some black tape along it. But we need to protect ourselves, and we are working very closely with Peel Regional Police on techniques to recover more vehicles and to prevent our autos from being stolen. So thank you for that question, and I want to thank my counselors as well for providing their feedback.
Thank you very much, Mayor Crombie. Our next question was to be live, but it is now asked to be read. It's from Gazala. Gazala asks, has the city looked into lighting? The new lights are not bright enough, especially at crosswalks and street corners. Is there anything that can be done about this? Mayor Crombie?
Well, I think we're going to ask the expert here, and that is our Commissioner of Transportation and Works, Jeff Wright. Jeff, over to you. What can we do about making the lights brighter, please?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. So the question around street lighting, yes. So in terms of, yes, we are aware of issues with LED lights. And if there's an issue, a specific concern, people can call 311 and we can go out and take an investigation of that particular area to ensure that the lighting standards are being met. Certainly, as we look to advance Vision Zero and road safety initiatives, lighting is a key tool to that, especially this time of year when it gets dark early and people are traveling in the dark more often. But so as an example, in the 24 budget, we have about $7 million that we spend on our street lighting program, and we have about $3.5 million in capital in the 24 budget to enhance our streetlight network. So if there's a specific area of concern, we're happy to investigate and see what we can do to improve street lighting in the community. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We have time for a few more questions, and if you want to get into the queue to ask a question live, you can press *3 on your phone at any time. And you can also join the conversation online at mississauga.ca/budget, where you can ask your questions by typing them into the question field. Our next question comes live from John, who has a question about the transition, the dissolution of the Region of Peel. John, you're on.
Hi, Mayor Crombie. I'm just wondering, since government is going to be merging and there'll be two governments becoming one, are there programs in place or going to be in place to downsize government so that we're not paying more taxes?
That's a great question, John. In fact, 4 governments are going to become 3, because don't forget it was town of Caledon, the city of Brampton, city of Mississauga, and the Region of Peel. So we actually had 2-tier government. So we will be our own. And yes, of course, we're looking for options. The transition board is running the dissolution, and they're looking for these kinds of options. And what we're seeing that they will likely be proposing is service agencies. So for the delivery of water, wastewater, waste pickup, service agencies that make the most sense, much the way that Electra provides your electricity distribution today. But we don't know yet, but this is what we're hearing. So continue to look online for confirmation. There will obviously be announcements about this. But Sherry, I know you're working very closely with the transition team. What are you hearing about downsizing government after we dissolve so we can be run more efficiently? I know you're always looking for savings here at the City of Mississauga. Sherry, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Mayor Crombie. Yeah, just to follow up on your comments, certainly most single tier cities deliver a lot of these services directly, and we are looking at some services where we would need a service board, but really trying to minimize that so that we can be as efficient as possible. In addition to that, really, when you look at the region of Peel and the administration and all of the overhead that's required to support the delivery of services and move some of those services to each city can really absorb those services without needing to add a lot of additional administration and overhead. So yes, we are definitely looking to have a smaller size of sort of administrative bureaucracy through this Peel dissolution process, but certainly no impact to the services that are delivered, and ensure that they continue to be delivered to our residents and businesses uninterrupted through this process and after dissolution. So more to come on that, and I'll turn it back over to Rob.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Our next question comes live from Yuna, who has a question about investments being made north of the airport. Yuna, you're on live. Hello, Yuna.
Hi there.
Go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to know what investments are there for the Malton area, that side of Mississauga. Everything I've been hearing is for the other side of Mississauga, Square One and that area. What about the other area of Mississauga? What investments are there for this side of the city?
Una, it's a great question. I'm going to answer it a little bit. I see that your counselor has had to come off the call, but I'll ask Jody as well to support me. But certainly a lot is going on in Malton. You have a very vibrant business improvement area that is active, that is putting on a number of festivals. They most recently held a Diwali festival and lit some fireworks for the community. They have an annual Canada Day celebration. We are, with the stewardship of Councillor Carolyn Parrish, building the Malton Youth Hub, which will be open very, very soon, providing a space for our young people to come together in a safe way. We also have a new, fairly newly renovated community center and library in Malton. Of course, the Seva Food Bank for those in need. And I know that this year coming, that we will finally be putting shovels in the ground to build the Goreway Bridge. So that is very exciting news for the community. Jody, do you want to respond to some of the initiatives happening in Malton as well?
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. And we have a number of initiatives within community services. Massive renovation of Paul Coffey Park, which has had some really great public engagement and feedback on. So phase 2 of that renovation is starting this year. Really looking forward to a couple of new projects as well. Complementary to the Malton Youth Hub project, we have a project with the Peel District School Board to do a joint use facility at Lincoln Alexander School with a great walking track that members of the public can access, as well as at Ascension of Our Lord Catholic School doing another great joint project. And these joint projects really do leverage our tax dollars because they're, 50% of those dollars are coming from the school and 50% from the city. So lots of great community investment and feedback, and super excited to welcome everyone to the Malton Youth Hub as we get ready to open that. So back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jody. Appreciate the answers to that question. Our next question comes to us from Mike online. He has a specific question about the Transit Committee. He asks, Christian's presentation at the Transit Committee meeting showed that we need 150,000 to 200,000 service hours added to transit, yet we're only adding 60,000 per year. What can be done about this? Mayor Crombie?
Yeah, I think the perfect person to respond to this is the chair, Councillor Joe Hornick from Ward 6. And then if whatever he can't answer, we'll pass over to our Commissioner of Transportation and Work, Jeff Wright. So Councillor Hornick, over to you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm really glad that we have a transportation committee. Councillor Kovac and Councillor Tedrow joined me on that committee. I think you raised a great question, right? We all know that we've had a challenge right now with bus door closures, right, and overcapacity issues. So in this budget, we're putting forward a 4% increase And we know that we need a bit more, but there also is a capacity increase on how many bus drivers we can add. So in this budget, we're adding 49 new drivers, 3 new people in the garage to help support our services. So we're going to do that. We also have retirements. We need to fill those positions on a constant basis. But I want to make sure that we're having a check-in sometime later in the year to see that we're seeing that service improvement, right? We know that we've had that high level of increase of 109% from the COVID levels over that now. So we know that demand is there, and we want to make sure that we're supporting a bus-friendly city. It's super important. The more dense we get, the more we're going to need to drive more people onto our buses so that people who drive don't have the congestion on the roads. And it's really important to move forward a major city. And so I'm glad that we have these investments coming forward. I do think there's a lot more we can do. I'm really excited to see we're going to have some new hybrid electric buses coming on. Those would be great benefits for us, both on an environmental standpoint and pays back about 25% in the diesel costs. So we get a good cycle there going and supporting better service, better quality, better delivery on cost. So I'm excited. And, please come to the Transit Committee if you have any more questions, because we have a wonderful active discussion on a constant basis. And I'm really excited to see the citizen input that we get to that committee. So thanks very much, Madam Mayor. And I don't know if Commissioner Wright maybe has a couple of things he might want to add.
No, Councillor, I think you've done a good job in terms of, where we're going and the growth over the next couple of years that we want to invest in My Way. So perhaps with that, I'll turn it back to Rob.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And we have 2 more questions, and then we have to wrap up for the evening. But the next question comes from Alex, who asked online, litter and dog waste has become an increasing problem in Mississauga. Is there any money being allocated in the budget to address these issues? Mayor Crombie?
Yes, of course there are. And I'm going to ask our Commissioner Jody Robilos to walk you through those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie, and thank you for the question. Litter is obviously, a large priority of us here at the City of Mississauga, and we've made some investments both on the capital side for 2024 as well as ongoing operating. So the city does take care of all of our waste within parks and along roadsides. And we've been dealing with some challenges over the last few years on illegal dumping. I will say that, it is definitely getting better. We really appreciate members of the public and their willingness to engage in our park cleanups and road cleanups and adopt a park programs. So for 2024, we have an additional $150,000 for our sanitation garbage infrastructure. We're increasing our dog waste pilot program and including that in more locations across the city. And on an operating basis, we are spending about $1.8 million annually in operating costs to take care of garbage within our parks. So really looking forward to continuing to work with the public in implementing our circular economy strategy and decreasing our overall waste. So thank you for the question, and back over to you, Rob.
Thanks very much, Jody. Great answers on how we can keep our community beautiful. Our last question comes to us from Rabia, who asked us to read her question. She asks, with the recent wildfires and climate-related events, how is the city budgeting for these type of events in Mississauga, and what are we doing about climate change?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will say we were one of the first municipalities to declare a climate change emergencies and adopt, and that was back in June of 2019, I believe, and adopt a climate change action plan. And we've put some significant funding behind it, $50 million. So there's a number of initiatives that are ongoing to adapt and mitigate the damage done from climate change. And certainly we know that this summer was a record for Northern Ontario with the number of wildfires, more than ever before. So you need to look no further than the province of Ontario to recognize climate change is a real issue. And look around the world, quite frankly, with the number of wildfires everywhere, whether in Hawaii or Malta or Italy, it just everywhere. Jody, do you want to talk about specific budget items that will speak to climate change and other related events? And of course, we have put a stormwater charge, which helps us mitigate the damage from flooding and other natural weather incidents. So Jody, do you want to speak to climate change for us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. And I think what's important to know is that, our climate change action plan that was endorsed by council really touches on so many divisions across the city. And about 44% of our investment that we're making next year in projects have a climate change component to it. And so, you know, from hybrid buses to, you know, city building standards that are changing and renewable energy, investment in stormwater facilities, as well as some programs around our waterfront and ensuring that we have some really great investment in erosion and other areas. It's pretty comprehensive, and I can say that, you know, we have set a standard that, you know, is ambitious. We intend to meet the goals of our climate change action plan. With that, we are looking at internally ourselves, but we're also looking at ways that we can connect with the public and help the public make some investments in their own infrastructure at home to achieve those climate change targets. But I think I could talk for an hour on climate change, Madam Mayor, but I know we don't have that much time. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, and happy to wrap up here.
Just a little piece of trivia, though. Of course, we too have a goal of becoming net zero by 2050, but we also have the only fire station in Canada that is net zero, and we're very proud of that. And we get calls each and every day asking how we achieved it. So that's great news, and we're continuing, because here municipalities across our country are leaders in adapting and modifying the effects of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Crombie and Jody. It's hard to believe it's been 90 minutes already. There have been so many great questions and an informative discussion tonight, but we are unfortunately out of time. But before we depart, Mayor Crombie, do you have any closing thoughts to share with our audience regarding tonight's session?
Sorry, just unmuting myself. Yes, of course I do. I want to thank everyone for joining us. These are always terrific, and I love the broad range of questions that are asked. So thank you for everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules this evening, for joining us for the budget information session. Like me, I know that you're all proud to call Mississauga your home, and I know my fellow members of council and the senior leadership team and all our city staff are committed to meet the challenges that lie ahead and that drive Mississauga forward. There are many ways that you can stay informed on the city budget process. You can find a wealth of information on our website at mississauga.ca/budget, and I encourage you to keep up to date on budget discussions by following the city on social media. And please make sure to tune in to our upcoming budget committee meetings, which are live streamed on our website at mississauga.ca and archived for future viewing. So again, thank you for taking the time to join our budget information session tonight, and have a lovely evening. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie, and the rest of our panelists for joining us for this important discussion. And thank you to everyone who took the time to participate. If you were not able to ask your question this evening, you can still get an answer by emailing us at budget@mississauga.ca. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.